Okay, so yeah, my mama was like, okay, everything I need for 2 months. And she looked at her clothes and she was like, well, I guess I have everything already then. Because she has like one set of clothes and it's real simple life, you know? So she was like, let's go then. And so they took off and they got to this house and then her mom walked in and had her flannel plaid shirt on and she started ripping her shirt and into little pieces. And then she said, "Where's your matchbox?" And so that family there looked around and gave her the matchbox and then those red bird matchboxes. Her mom took that sleeve off and then just flung all the matches all over the floor. And my grandma was like, "Oh man, ever dramatic. Like, can't you just be gentle?" This is what she's thinking, little kid. And then she took that matchbox and she put a piece of her shirt inside that flannel shirt. And then that's where they put the baby. It was a premature baby, and they had that baby sitting in that matchbox, and it was my grandma's job. They worked with that baby for like 2 months in front of like a potbelly wood stove, feeding the baby and rubbing oil all over the baby, keeping this little baby girl alive. And they started feeding the baby colostrum, because mommy had it. And but then there wasn't enough demand from such a small baby that the mom ran out of milk. And for whatever reason, in that particular satellite community, there was no wet nurses, so there was no breast milk for this baby, which is a pretty big deal, especially back then, like in the early 40s, I guess. So then what she did is she told them to go get tikmek, go get whitefish. And with that whitefish, they cooked it, they boiled it, they made like this broth with it, and they would spoon feed that little baby the broth. And my grandma's favorite sort of cadence to the story was to say, yeah, and you know what? That you would never know it if you looked at that woman now. Because that woman, she must be close to 80 years old now, and she's massive. She's real tall, real big woman. And my grandma, real cute little mama, would always go up to her, white poofy hair, and she'd always sort of give her a nudge and say, "I remember when you were this big." But she's looking up at that woman because she's huge. And so she would always say, it would seem that she got even a better start than she would have to be under that care. Now that my daughter, she just turned 7, when she was a little kid, I would always thinking of just ruminating on all of my grandma's stories, and sort of thinking about that story in particular. She was like 6 years old when she did that. My daughter was 6 last year, sitting in front of a stove, holding a baby, feeding it. And then, I don't even let my daughter lift the puppy off the couch to put it on the floor. I'm like, what kind of lives did these people used to live? It's one of my most fascinating ideas. And so, of course, one of my favorite things is that they did not have steady access to a hospital back in those days. It was in Manitoulin, which can be like a 30-kilometer drive, wagon drive, or a horseback ride, or walk. And so you're not going to get injured and then walk 30 kilometers to get to the hospital. And then it moves to Little Kern, even farther away. And so it just wasn't an option. They grew up having to remember the medicine they needed to just be able to live. It was just a fact of life. It was just a knowledge, everyday knowledge. If you ever got sick or injured, you have to know what kind of medicine to fix yourself. Just like if your clothes ripped, you have to know how to sew to fix it. You can't just go buy new ones or order on Amazon Prime, same day delivery. You can't do that. You have to know how to sew it up. And then now we're even too scared to get Amazon Prime because of all of the pandemic situation. So when Rosie rips her hippopotamus toy, well, we have to sew that back up. Can't just order a new one. And so it's real interesting. This one this women's medicine, this Kwemshkiki that I'll share with you guys tonight. Yeah, just have like once we realized that my grandma had some really incredible knowledge, we started to like actually sit down with her and take as much of it as we could, and to be able to learn, to be able to provide it to people. I was thinking of all kinds of people who could use the medicine that she talks about. And so when we were talking about midwifery, like the practice, one of the most important things to understand, especially this early on, is that, and then to address one of the questions from earlier, is that when you're pregnant, you can't use medicine, really. Same thing with even pharmaceutical medication, things that have been through so much rigorous scientific study, scientific rigor. You still can't use a lot of medication when you're pregnant, because we know the risks. And so when it comes to unknown risks like plant components inside of plant and their potential harmful effects, you can't use this kind of medicine when you're pregnant. There's like very, very few things that you could do when you're pregnant, to the point where I just say can't do nothing. Like when my wife was pregnant, my grandma said, don't let her lift anything heavier than a textbook. That's it. And so she wasn't allowed to do anything. And so we she says, when it comes to midwifery, the way that it works is that you have to prepare. You have to dedicate time to prepare before you get pregnant. So you go to visit a midwife, and we give them, people will come to us, and we would give them medicine, and they would use that medicine for like months before they would even try to get pregnant, and in preparation for, just to make sure everything is good, everything will go good. And so she says, to prevent one of the worst things that can ever happen to a woman or a family is a miscarriage or a stillborn. We want to avoid this to the most degree as possible. And so she would say, that's what I would sort of summarize, that the whole practice of midwifery to Anishinaabe, or at least to her mom, was to avoid this, to prevent this from happening. And so it was real neat to be able to hear from that to hear that idea, that you have to prepare. And so my grandma, she would always say too, like, all of you young people, you're all different now. You don't prepare for nothing the way that we used to. The amount of time we would dedicate to taking medicine before we would become pregnant was so great to minimize that risk. She said, you guys don't do none of that. All you do is you just go to a bar, and then that's it. And so we're like, okay, well, let's learn about this medicine then. What can help with this sort of situation? How prepare for pregnancy, make sure everything goes good. And she says, and then I gotta type this all out for everybody again. So she says, Fraxin. I want to make sure you have these Latin names. Aniipiminaatikonhs. I was panicking, so I didn't do this ahead of time. Oh, I did it ahead of time, but I panicked and exited out of it so I could restart my computer so that I wouldn't get a blue screen, but I got a blue screen anyway. But yeah, Mshkiigwaatikonhs. Saricea, and then and like I said, this should be pretty easy. There we go. So we were like, so there in the chat, I just put down the names, and so I sat down with my mom, I mean my grandma, and I just asked her, what was in that medicine to prepare for pregnancy, and she says, oh, Bwoyaak or wiisagaak, Mshkiigwaatikonhs, Mskwabiimnagonhs, Aniipiminaatikonhs, and that's it. There's other little things you could add to there to help. She shared this with us later. She said, those, you just take all that bark off and make that medicine. And so we were like, oh, okay. And we just did. Like my grandma I had to visit with lots of my uncles and my dad, and visiting with everybody to realize what the names of those plants were in English and in Latin, because all my grandma does is know Anishinaabe. I even ask her all the time too, like what are their English names? And for her trees, for plants, she wouldn't give an answer. She'd just be like, well, there isn't one. We only called it Gogabgons, or we only called it Mshkiigwaak, or whatever it was. And then when it comes to trees, though, she would always make more of an effort. And so, like Bwoyaak, the white ash, we would ask her and say, well, do you know the English name? Oh, I think that's a balsam. But I think that, she just really liked to say balsam, because she would call every tree a balsam. She just needed like 10 minutes, and then I'd ask her a different tree and she'd call it balsam too. And then ask her another one. Oh, Aniipiminaatikonhs. What do you think? What's Aniipiminaatikonhs, like the English name? Do you know? And she would say, oh no, it's got berries. Maybe, I think it's elm. She just really liked to say elm. She'd call all her trees elm. It was real cute. She would always try with the trees, and so I had to ask around everybody to realize what the English names were, so I could learn how to identify them, and basically everything that we covered in the YouTube video, to be able to go out and do it. But once we did it, once me and my wife would go out and we made this medicine, we found people. It's like the worst scientific protocol. We would just find people and give them that medicine and just watch what happens. My whole community turned into a community of real nice, beautiful Anishinaabe cultural center, language hub of the Great Lakes to guinea pigs. Wiisagaak is just guinea pigs now. And the first woman that I found was she was actually going through menopause. So this medicine is designed to help with all of the transitionary periods that women go through. What I mean by that, because you guys probably already realized that I've been saying this over and over again, but what I mean by that is I guess even emulated in the name that we use for women. So one of my buddies, I get to hang out with him, not often anymore, but I used to. Birav Pelcha, he really likes to talk about language, and so I'll steal a little bit out of his book to be able to share with you guys. But women is the name we use for women, ikwe, kweok for plural. This is what this word is talking about when you look at it from this perspective of each sound in Anishinaabe language. Anishinaabe means something, does something. Whenever you hear that kwe sound in Anishinaabe, it's talking about a change. So like my favorite is Kwemshkiki. Bread, the word that we use for bread. You hear that sound, Kwemshkiki, you hear that kwe sound. So there's in what this word is talking about, there's a permanent, irreversible change that takes place, and it's actually real hilarious because bread is one of goes like out of all of the chances that bread has, we remove all of its chances. So like when wheat is growing, you get wheat growing, and it makes seeds to make more wheat. But what we do is we harvest those seeds, and harvest the plants, and then we leave it and let it dry. So we remove all of the water from that plant. And then in the olden days, I guess you'd have these things called threshing floors, where you'd smash the wheat against the floor, to separate the wheat from the grain, or from the stalk, and then you take all of those seeds. You could still rehydrate those and plant them, but what we do is we'll grind it all up. We'll turn it into flour. So now there's no way it can ever reproduce itself. We just blend it all up into flour, and then when we make bread, we just tease it. We add water to it, just to say like, hey, well, it could have been, but too bad we ground you all up. So you add some flour and you make dough, and then you burn it in the oven. And kill it even more, and then you take the bread out of the oven, and then you chop it up, you slice it up into a bunch of tiny little pieces, and then you burn it again, and then you rub a bunch of butter on it, and then you eat it and digest it and destroy it just as much as you possibly could. I can never get over how badly we have to kill this one plant. It's real hilarious. But Kwemshkiki, that change, that permanent, irreversible change, of course, wheat goes through a lot of those as well. But just the process of cooking, you hear that term again in Aagimaak, like to cook something. That to just speak of all of the changes that happen there. One of my favorites is Pkwene, is smoke. Pkwene, you hear that change sound. Kwe, talking about the change that happens from the organic matter that is being turned into smoke, being burned, and being reduced to ash and smoke. So there's a permanent, irreversible change there. There's even a real beautiful flower called Memnaonqua. Memnaonqua is GM triflora, is prairie smoke. And one cool thing about prairie smoke is that when it blooms, that flower, it looks like an avon. It looks like a fully bloomed flower, but then it changes, and then it sends out all of this real nice looking, real nice looking hair. It looks like Elvis. And so this plant goes through permanent, irreversible change, and even a little bit of trickery. And so kwe is talking of the word that we use to describe a woman, is speaking to all of those different changes that women go through. And so starting from when you're a child, to getting to starting your cycles in your moon time, the puberty change, and then there's a change that happens before your before childbearing, and then there's changes that happen during childbearing, there's changes that happen during child rearing, and then there's menopause, and just all of those different transitionary periods that you go through, or that women go through, is really, really incredible. And so this medicine is to help with all of those changes. The first chance that I got was with a woman going through menopause. And just real typical. I mean, I understand it as typical now, but when she was first telling me, I was like, oh, this is horrible. This happens to women? And I was like, wow, it was real intense. So she was like, she's complaining, rightfully so, about the hot flashes. She says, you know, I haven't slept in the same room as my partner for like 3 years. My window is open in the winter, and the AC is in the window in the winter, because sometimes that air is not even cold enough, and she has to put insulation inside of her bedroom to keep it cold enough for her. Goes through all these crazy measures just to be cool enough to have a good sleep. And she finds out that my grandma taught us how to make this medicine, and she's like, well, okay, I need this. And she found me, and she's telling me this is what's happening, and I was like, this is horrible. And I was like, at the time, I was like, wow, this we made it, you know. Here, take that, make some tea, and let me know how it goes. Just like as unethical as I could be. Just let me know how it goes. And so she took it, made her tea, and it was, and she made her tea, you know, letting it steep all night, started having it the next day, and really enjoying it too, because it's really, really delicious. So she's enjoying it throughout the day, maybe had a couple cups, and that night she slept in the same bed as her partner. The amount of correction that had already happened just during the day that she was drinking it, she felt so good already. And then she came after she had a real good sleep all night, and then even slept in. She came back the next day to tell me, like, this was one of the most ridiculous things. Dealing with all of those situations for so long with the hot flash, the effects that it had on her family, on her relationships, on everything. And she was like all she needed was a couple cups of tea, and she thought it was the most outrageous thing. But it never came back either. Once that medicine, got to work with her, the correction that it's responsible for, once that all started to take place, the way that I like to say this, so if anybody has any questions about, how long do I have to drink this medicine for it to work? Well, sometimes it happens real fast. Sometimes there needs a little bit more dedication, like in the what we shared, the video chat that I had with Paige. To me, that's what happens when it takes a little bit longer. You're looking at a few months before you notice some significant result. But what happens is that medicine all of those plants are working together to repair and restore all kinds of different organs, systems, and processes that can become awry in a woman. And when those are repaired and restored, once that all of those plants have been able to conduct their therapy, then what happens is it takes another lifetime of abuse to land you back into that same situation again, where there's hormone dysregulation, or you have a painful cramps, or whatever it is. It takes another lifetime of abuse to land you back in that same situation. It's not as though we have this thought sometimes, I guess, that I'm trying to dispel as early on as possible, that when we use medicine, then we start to feel better, it fixes all these different things, and then the second that you stop using it, then all of that comes back like a tidal wave. That's not the way that it happens. I want you to understand that all of these different plants are restoring proper function to, and even strengthening beyond normal function, all the different organs and systems and processes that can go wrong or that are suffering in women. The first one was with menopause. And she talks real lots. Like, I don't want to say anybody's name, but like, she's a real good gossiper, and I always take those opportunities. Like yeah, okay. So if this medicine helps her, a lot of people will know really fast, and that's what happened with her. She went to all of her friends, anyone who she knew that was suffering with menopause, and was like, "There's this stuff." And then I was giving it out like, you get Kwemshkiki and you get Kwemshkiki, just giving it out like Oprah, and watching my credit card go up. We're just making this medicine like crazy, collecting all these really incredible stories about how it helps with menopause and so many issues associated with it. Then what happened was I started to get a few other situations like, oh, does it help with menstruation? I have such bad issues, really bad cramping and ripping and tearing and dysregulation, like comes and goes, and sometimes gone for a couple months and then comes back, and just nothing, the timing of things, and then some spotting, some super heavy, and it's like just there's no consistency. And that's one of the things that my grandma says too, and that we understand, like in research, or in the literature, where when there's something wrong, like if you have a headache, that's something wrong. You can just use Tylenol and then just sort of plug her through, get through the day, but that headache is indicating you that there's something wrong. Like in the case of a headache, your brain's not getting enough oxygen, not getting enough blood, so it mechanically will spasm and squeeze the blood to where it has to go. So every heartbeat, you're having vascular spasms all throughout your brain. That's a headache. That's what you feel. There's something wrong. Your brain is not getting enough blood or oxygen, and it's panicking. You have a Tylenol and think everything's going to be okay. It's not exactly the way that it should work. So whenever there's something different happening, just understand like there's something wrong, like painful menstruation, there's something wrong. And so let's talk about the yeah, yeah. So let's hope this works and doesn't crash again. I'm scared. Oh, clicker anyway. So, oh, yeah, you guys are still there. I'm just gonna go through this. I know. Let me see here. Whoa! Oh, I'm real massive. Okay. Oh, I know why I crashed earlier. Anyways, let's go back over here. So let's talk about the first one. So I really want to. Oh, geez. So, oh, preview. Okay, so I really wanted to talk about the first one here. The first one that I wanted to talk about is uh, um, to sort of go through. I wonder if I should start here. I really like this to be able to become creative and to see where how we should how this could be structured. But anyways, we'll start here. So this is sort of where a lot of problems begin. And so when you're looking at women's health and the epidemiology, it's really really amazing to really understand where some of these really um, nasty problems come from. And so when we're talking about, one of the main ones why probably most of us are here would be like painful menstruation. That's where I tend to be giving away this medicine the most, to which there's like really outstanding results just within a very short amount of time. But when you have painful menstruation, like the uterus is a muscle, right? It's a really complex muscle. There's all kinds of different layers, and the way that it's structured is just fascinating, just from a tissue perspective. But that muscle is supposed to be really strong, and what it's supposed to be able to do every month is just muscle off the endometrial lining, that blood lining. It's supposed to just muscle it off. And what happens though is, for whatever reasons, it could be genetic, it could be the foods we're eating, the lack of exercise or stress, or whatever the reason for, the uterus becomes weak. And when the uterus becomes weak, what happens then is it has a backup plan. When it can't just muscle off the lining every month, it has a backup plan. And what that backup plan is to spasm. It spasms and it rips it off. And so that's painful menstruation. Sort of in a nutshell, to look at it very generally, is that the uterus is not as strong as it should be. The muscles are not toned. They're not working properly together. Some parts are stronger, some parts are weaker. And so it just spasms to rip the lining off. And so we want to stop that. And so this is actually one of the main sort of medicines as a part of this mixture. Ash as well helps a little bit, but this is the main one that is going to help with strengthening the uterus itself. Basically giving it a workout. So they looked at all kinds of different chemistry, Viburnum. They named one of the chemicals after the species, but Viburnum was one of them. Usually only present in Viburnum, but it's in the loads of it in the Osier Dogwood. Basically, what happens is it works out the uterus. It gives it a exercise. Just like when you're pregnant, what women will understand, what you'll feel when you start to use this medicine is when you're pregnant, you'll get Braxton Hicks, those false contractions that usually come later into the trimester or later into the third trimester. That's the uterus working out, exercising to be able to do what it needs to do. And so this is basically the same thing is sort of happening here. The Osier Dogwood is exercising and toning the muscle and really helping with the root of so many problems, the beginning of so many of the most devastating conditions that women can or are subjected to, all of the different diseases. So start from a weak uterus, and we need to give it everything that we need to be able to make it as strong as possible. And that's what this does. And it does it really well, pretty quickly. And for a lot of women can feel it throughout the month, just engaging with this medicine to sort of feel those contractions happening. But it kind of just feels like gas, everybody says. I might be reading into it, but could be some boogity beans. But anyway, that's one of the main reasons why red osier dogwood is so important. But what I wanted to share with you is that this is one of the ones that really help with a lot of pain that is associated with menstruation, but as well just the amount of with the different than men, the hormones that are present can you're more sensitive to pain, but you're more champs of pain. The amount of pain that women go through just on a regular basis, it's just in normal women, is a substantially higher than men. It just simply because of the different types of hormone and the different types of tissues that you carry, like a little bit more adipose tissue, a little bit more fat than the average man you're able to have, and the pain associated with that, just the general sorts of pain, you have a lot more of it. But more than any other creature in the world, probably your adaptations to that pain is just tremendous. And so you deal with it. You call it normal. Everyone deals with this, and you adapt to it, and you just keep rolling with it. And as you age, that pain slowly increases and gets worse and worse and worse, to the point where you're 60, 70 years old, maybe even in your late 50s, and you're just in so much pain that you could only sleep 4 hours a night. This pain wakes you up in the morning. The pain tolerance that women have and develop throughout their life is incredible. And so this medicine, being one really amazing women's medicine, the red osier dogwood, helps a lot with the pain. Just being an analgesic itself, just to help minimize the amount of pain being registered, drawing out calcium from various sensory neurons throughout your body, preventing that pain signal to be sent to your dorsal root ganglion for your brain to be able to register pain. And then, the pain associated with PCOS, it's insane. And so the red osier dogwood itself helps a lot with the pain. But one of the things that I wanted to share is that, and that I didn't share in the video, on the YouTube video, I actually have to change that, is when you harvest the red osier dogwood, there's this pith. There's this not hollow center, but there's this styrofoamy stuff in the center of the tree. And it feels like styrofoam. And so if you break that open and you carve out the center of the tree, that's what you use for pain. So my grandma says that, she saw her mom do this a few times, just with some of the bigger trees, to carve out that insides. And she'd grind it into powder, and she would use that, she said, mainly during labor itself. If everything wasn't going appropriately, that's what she would use in a tea form. And so I was like, and I did a little bit of research, and I found out that UBC published an article where they shared that that there's this issue, within certain sort of big data hospital epidemiology. They found that a lot of Cree women, and they named a couple communities up in northern Alberta, Cree women prefer to have their babies at home. And their language in that article was a little bit condescending to the medicinal knowledge, the medicines that are used. They want their medicine. I don't know, they didn't say primitive or anything like that, but that's what it sounded like. It sounded like all these old ladies in northern Alberta were just getting dissed real bad, that that they're using all of these caveman stuff, caveman techniques, and so, not that aggressive. Sorry if there are any UBC reps here, but what happened anyways, it got solved real quick. A bunch of Cree women from those communities drove right into the faculty that published that article and just gave them a big blast. Was real mad at them, was like, and then told them, you don't even know, how about you come experience this for yourself? And so these researchers went over there and saw them using the red osier dogwood, harvesting the inside, and the situation was that they prefer, the women in some of these communities who have been under their care prefer to use the red osier dogwood pith. It's called a pith, the heartwood, that styrofoamy stuff. They prefer to use that over an epidural. So that's why they don't go to the hospital, because of everybody's stories that this stuff is way better. And so they did interviews with some of the women who had birth with the traditional midwives, and then went to have one in the hospital and had an epidural, had a horrible experience, had another kid, and chose to have that one in the community and use the red osier dogwood, the Mskwabiimnagonhs. And so they got all different types of stories from all these different communities, and I don't know if they rescinded the paper or how they changed it, or if they even changed it, but they were sure corrected by this group of little old ladies. And it was real awesome to be able to read that. And then since then, incorporating that into our women's medicine, putting those pieces in there, putting that pith, harvesting the pith, and sort of making sure that it's there. What happens is the women that we give this to have a way more dramatic response to the amount of pain reduction that they have, the sleeps that they're having, and didn't even know that they were waking up throughout the night in such that it was the pain waking them up at night. So when it comes to women and the pain that it seems as though you are designed to deal with, this is the medicine that is designed to be able to remove that. And you just need to remember to take that pith out. I think I was all nervous, like APTN was there, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I just left it. I was like, oh, I'll just share a little exclusive for these guys. But yeah, you need to make sure to remember that. So real good segue there from Kaylee's question about the reason why I did this now is because everybody can make this now. The bark is always on the trees, and so you could use those 4 different barks, Bwoyaak or wiisagaak, Mskwabiimnagonhs, Mshkiigwaatikonhs, Aniipiminaatikonhs. You could harvest all of those now. And I know a lot of people are from all over the place. A lot in the States, a lot out west, a lot out east. The distribution of a lot of these plants is pretty wide, but the main distribution of them is isolated to the Great Lakes. One of the things that I didn't share in the video, I'm in Peterborough, Ontario, but one of the things I didn't share in the YouTube video either is that they're about the alternate species. I think I only talked about it with the high bush cranberry, which should be the next one that we talk about. About using different species. I talked about it with the red osier dogwood. We can use red osier dogwood as the absolute best because the pith is the biggest, but alternate dogwood and silky dogwood, flowering dogwood, in the south, a lot of people have no red osier dogwood, but they have flowering dogwood or Jamaican dogwood, and they use them the same way and had really, really good results. Maybe not the same results. There's something special about the plants in the Great Lakes. Oh, sorry about your neck. I wonder if I can, boo. Yeah, that's my daughter, Ruth, picking a bunch of red osier dogwood when we first moved to Peterborough. But yeah, you could do this in the middle of winter. You could do it in the middle of the summer. The medicine is always there. The learning and understanding about bark is very important. The red osier dogwood, has white flowers on it. But yeah, we just use the bark, scrape all the bark off. You guys saw this in the video, so I don't want to be staying on this forever. But yeah, just scraping it all off. You have a big pile of bark. This was in Garden Village, I think, that time. But the next one I wanted to share. Oh, everything's all crooked. Jeez. How come it's like that? Oh, there we go. Okay, so this one, I wonder if I can, is CW. Oh, anyways, I'll just leave this one up there then. So, so yeah, the red Osier dogwood to strengthen the uterus, to help with the pain. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to share, pretty quick, it's already 4 o'clock. Jeez. So I wanted to go 3 to 5 and then have question and answers starting at 5. So hopefully that all goes good, swimmingly. But this is one that I really am excited to share. All the other ones just make sense, but this one, high bush cranberry, you'll have in the north mainly, you'll have Viburnum trilobum, which is the one that's native to the Great Lakes. But there's an invasive species, Viburnum opulus, which is from Europe. But it found its home pretty nice here. It's all over the place, and a lot of us will only have access to Viburnum opulus, the invasive European species. But I want you guys to understand that it does really well. And then, like any study that I cite, or any components that they have, these studies are being done on the European species. The trilobum, the one that's native to the Great Lakes, has the same chemistry, the same components, except a lot more. So it's like a little bit better. On average, about 30 times more of those volatile constituents. So a lot more. But the high bush cranberry is Aniipiminaatikonhs. The one my grandma says is elm. And this one, the common name for it, a lot of people understand high bush cranberry, but a lot of people also will only know it as cramp bark. We'll call it cramp bark. Oops, I only sent that to Leroy. Cramp bark. So this one is really awesome. That's what it helps with, is the cramping, but the cramping very specifically associated with women, and so with menstrual cramps. It helps with all cramps though, and it's really amazing the mechanism of action that this plant chooses to have in your body. Everything that sodium touches, it constricts, it excites. Everything that calcium touches, it constricts and excites. So that's why, like, calcium and sodium, they're bad for your high blood pressure, because they'll constrict your blood vessels, and you have way high blood pressure. One of the things that we need to understand is that magnesium is in your body as well, and everything magnesium touches, it relaxes. That's why if you have too much magnesium, it's it's pretty, your colon will just relax and everything comes out real fast. So it's usually pretty uncomfortable if you ever had too much magnesium, but the everything magnesium touches, it relaxes. It's like just chills everything out. And so what we need to understand is that when we get stressed out, adrenaline and cortisol are stress hormones. Whenever we have a fight or flight response, those hormones do a lot of different things. So one of the main things that they do is they tell your liver to secrete a whole bunch of sugar, to give you all the sugar, all of the energy that you need to be able to run from a bear. Like if you met a bear on a trail and you're panicking, so you'll have all the energy you need to be able to run from the bear or fight from the bear, or the police. And so whenever you get stressed, this is what's supposed to happen. And it does. You could feel that energy when you get pulled over. You're just like, oh, you didn't even do anything wrong, or maybe you did do something wrong, but you're just shaking like a leaf because there's just so much energy inside of your body. You have to shake it out. Your body doesn't even know what to do with it. So those stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, one of the other things that they do is they tell your body to get rid of all of the magnesium. Your kidneys basically just open up and suck all of the magnesium out of your body, and you pee it out. So if you're stressed, on a regular basis. It's not just from running from bears or from running from police. It's everyday stress too. You know, the stress response that you get just from driving, like in Ottawa especially. Oh, I hate driving in Ottawa. It's brutal. If you could drive in Ottawa, you could probably drive anywhere. But the just from driving or from, you know, your work, your coworkers send you a nasty email or whatever, and you have all the energy you need to be able to deal with this coworker of yours or this employer, but you don't, right? Hopefully, it's not acceptable to be fighting police or your coworkers or your employers. You deal with it. Insulin usually brings all of your sugars down, but whenever you get stressed, your kidneys suck all of the magnesium from because you can't have magnesium in your body just relaxing everything, making sure that your body knows everything's okay, just relax, dilate everything. You're like, no, you're running from bears and police and beating up your employers all the time, so you need high blood pressure. You need to get rid of all of that magnesium. You need to always be on your toes, always stressed out and ready to go. You can't have this chilling out your body. And so, you know, and then we'll read on Facebook, you know, that magnesium is good for stress. So we're all stressed out, popping in real expensive magnesium pills, and you're just peeing it all out. Whenever, as it's being absorbed, or homeschooling your kids. Yeah, that's a whole other level. Homeschooling your kids with a puppy, brutal. But yeah, you can't be relaxed. You always have to be stressed and high blood pressure and stuff like that. So your body is just designed to get rid of all the magnesium. One of the things that I like to share with everybody is that plants and plant medicine can be looked at and understood as a way for your body, for you to be able to communicate to your body. Your body is designed to dump magnesium when it's stressed, but you could use Aniipiminaatikonhs, high bush cranberry, to be able to communicate to your body to say, hey, I'm going to be super stressed out, but here's some high bush cranberry to keep my magnesium. Keep all of that magnesium. Some of the components inside of high bush cranberry just sort of block your kidney's ability to grab magnesium, and so there's more flowing throughout your body. So you take the uterus and the uterine cramps that you're having, that crazy backup plan. You're already consuming the red Osier Dogwood. Mskwabiimnagonhs is strengthening it, but in the interim, you're going to need that high bush cranberry to help calm everything down, to relax everything, to not cramp, to not spasm so much. And so the amount of pain relief that women are going to have from the cramps stopping is tremendous. It's really, really amazing. And it's just because there's more magnesium. When there's more magnesium, there's also a whole slew of other benefits too. But that's basically all we need to understand from high bush cranberry is how good it is at keeping magnesium inside of your body. A really good teacher to be able to teach us that, understanding that plant medicine can be looked at as a way for us to be able to communicate to our body. You know, we've never dealt with this amount of stress before, maybe even in human history, and then here we are getting blue screens a minute before a stream with 200 people. I'm gonna enjoy my high bush cranberry tonight, so have some magnesium, get those built back up, because all of it was gone. So yeah, it's really, really amazing. And then I just wanted to share with you guys real quickly the story that it has. It's the easiest one to identify because the berries smell like stinky socks. Right? Like I said in the video too, not just anybody's stinky socks, your stinky socks. It smells like all of the good parts of a stinky sock. But it still reminds you of a stinky sock, so you might not enjoy it. The good thing about this one is that with kids, you make them eat one berry and they'll never forget about this tree for the rest of their life. And so they'll know their medicine right away. And then it's funny when you're making the tea too, you have all of your barks, you're scraping it all up and you're smelling that mixture. You could smell the red Osier Dogwood, the Tamarack is amazing. And then you get this foot smell, this toe jam smell in and amongst all of it, but something about it all works together so good. It's real nice for that. But this plant has a really amazing story, that I wanted to share with you guys. And I don't know why everything looks like this. Okay, so one of the things that I like to teach is that every single plant uh, is telling you a story. Every single plant is like a comic book, talking to you, showing you how it can be used, what it can be good for. And the way that plants do this, the way that plants communicate to you that what their stories are, is usually by their interactions. It can be just because of the way that they look, but it can be because through their relationships with other animals that they're able to tell a really amazing story, and we're able to extrapolate from that how this plant can be used. High-bush cranberry has a really awesome story, so I just wanted to share that with you guys real quick. If you go to it in the spring, when the flowers first come out, you have to go see this plant in the spring. What it does is it blooms these flowers around the perimeter, just on the outside. On the perimeter, these will bloom and they'll stay there throughout the whole summer. What happens is not the whole summer, for like quite a few weeks though. What this ring is, from an ecological perspective, is to attract pollination, attract pollinators. They'll see these big bright white colors and come in and see what's up. But you see all those tiny little buds in the middle don't bloom. It just sort of stays, they stay closed. What happens is they'll sporadically bloom in the middle throughout the summer. But this big ring around the perimeter will stay there. And you could see this one, even, I don't know if you could see, but it's being filled up with ants, and ants will pollinate it as well, attracted to those big white ring, that big white ring of flowers. But what I wanted us to understand is that when you go see this plant in the fall, what happens as it's growing, or as in the fall, everything is like turning all of the different colors, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the way that most trees change their color is that they will turn really bright, and then they'll sort of darken and then fall off. So they turn really bright to adapt to those cold temperatures, and then as they turn dark, they're dying, and they turn dark and then they fall off, and then they're on the ground, and then it makes the most beautiful pictures. But I love fall time. It's a whole year until the next fall. This one was real solid though. I really like this fall. It's been a while since we had a real nice, beautiful fall. So when we're looking at high-bush cranberry, we're trying to listen to the story that it has. One of the things that happens is you see that perimeter of flowers, and then in the fall, you see it turn dark. It turns really, really dark red color, like this burgundy color on the perimeter of the leaf, on the outside of the leaf. And then, so in these two images, you could sort of see that. Sometimes a little bit brighter, but usually it's got this really dark color. And it stays like that for weeks in the fall. It'll just hold that position. And so it's showing you, it's drawing you in to understand the story that it has. Because then what happens, then it follows suit. Then it turns, wait, where's that picture? Then the leaf will turn bright red and then fall off. So it's just really weird how the perimeter of the flowers, and then the leaf will have that dark red perimeter around it, and then turn bright and falls off. So just to defy the usual characteristics that most trees in the fall go through, to turn bright and then darken and fall off. It goes dark and then bright and falls off. And so what I wanted us to understand is that this tree is just a expert. It's perfect at showing us that this is what it's designed to help provide support to. This perimeter is showing us that endometrial lining, and then these flowers are showing you, I'm going to show you in the fall the part of you that I'm designed to help fix, and so keep an eye out for this perimeter or for this lining, and then in the fall you get this, a really dramatic display of this is what I can help with. And then the crampings associated with that body part, and then the magnesium. It's really, really amazing to be able to see what just this one plant can do. Because what I do usually when I'm going into communities is community wants me to teach about Kwemshkiki. So then on the way there, I'll on my travels to the community, that's when I'll pick it. And I'll just find it, you know, go down some logging roads and find real lots, bring it all. And so we all process it together. And it's pretty fun. But sometimes though, I can't find everything, or people, participants are not able to find everything on their own. But if they just engage with this one, the amount of relief and therapy that can be had with just the removing the cramping, keeping more magnesium, and the way that this is going to help with sleep and all that stuff, it's really, really incredible. Just this on its own. And then there's all kinds of other real cool benefits, like with high blood pressure, it's my go-to because it's usually pretty easy to find the bright red berries. Most of us sort of, maybe not most of us, but you know, you grow up and you watch chickadees, they'll drink this or eat these berries and they get drunk real fast. And then they can't fly. So you watch them fly into the ground or eat mice, and then even ants. Somebody told me that ants will eat this and then they can't even hold on to the tree anymore. Then they'll start falling off because they drank too much. So it's good pastime too to, you know, begin your relationship with this plant. You use it for medicine, but just go check it out because it's real funny too. Yeah, this one is just invaluable for a woman, and just to have in your house too, because like if you get any cramps too, like leg cramps and stuff like that, it's the same dealio, not holding on to enough magnesium, too much calcium, too much sodium, constricting and spasming everything. The last thing that I wanted to say too though is you probably already understand, you know, in a cartoon when somebody gets real stressed out in a cartoon, like something happens and they see red, their face gets red and smoke comes out of their ears and then their eye starts twitching. That tetany is because of that magnesium dump. You don't have no magnesium left in your body, and so you're already starting to twitch everywhere. So we see these ideas that are, you know, deep rooted in physiology, that are expressed in a colloquial way, like in cartoons. But yeah, we probably all already understood that anyways. But yeah, okay. So I wanted to make sure that I give Tamarack or Mshkiigwaatikonhs, Larch laricea, a really good one. A lot of us have questions. About the high bush about the tamarack. I just saw we use the bark from all these medicines. But yeah, I just saw one about tamarack and the species. So you can use the one from Europe, the Viburnum opulus, the high bush cranberry from Europe. It's amazing. I've used this in almost all the communities in southern and southwestern Ontario, because there's no native species there anymore. It's all hybridized and took over, and so yeah, I use it in my programming too, and when I'm making medicine, and it works really, really good. The same question for tamarack. We want to know what tamarack, if we could use the European larch, or there's another one out west. And I've had both use it, and still tremendous amounts of success. Mainly for tamarack. Oh, it's fixed. I thought this was crooked before. How come everything is fixed all of a sudden? This thing doesn't know what's up. So tamarack, yeah, you can use any, the one from out west, the one from Europe. Sorry, I don't remember the Latin names. Just the Larch laricea, the one that's native to here. That's the main one that we use. And yeah, I've had what we use this one for. This is actually really amazing. The tamarack, it's the best tasting, I think, out of all of them. It's the best. It's going to be the best tasting. Close second would be the stinky feet, or the toe jam one. But the tamarack is probably going to be the best tasting to you. And having it on its own is a really amazing experience. It's a really, really good taste. What it helps with The way that women should be or could be looking at this plant, using that interpretive technique that this tree is showing you, it's talking to you, telling a story. It's the only deciduous conifer, maybe in the world, definitely in this part of the world. Deciduous conifer meaning that it's a true conifer. It's alive in the winter, but it's a deciduous conifer, so it sheds its needles. It sheds all of its foliage, just like leaves in the fall. Tamarack will turn bright yellow and drop all of its needles, but keep its identity as a true conifer all throughout the winter. But because it's still alive. And so usually, it's really easy to find in the fall because it all turns bright yellow. For most of us and throughout the Great Lakes region, we could look at tamarack when it turns yellow. That's usually a sign that the lake has flipped. All of the cold, heavy, dense water on the bottom of the lake has come to the top, because the top water, the fall time, the temperatures are dropping, the cold winds make the top water heavier than the bottom water, and so it flips, and all that cold deep water will come onto the shore, and up come with them all of the whitefish. And so a lot of communities that I go to use this tamarack turning yellow as a sign or an indication to when it's ready to go whitefishing, to put your nets out to catch all of your tikmek. And so it's a pretty good pretty important tree just to be able to understand seasons and live and be a part of all of those different seasons and seasonal changes. But then it's pretty easy to identify in the fall. One of the most last things that happen before the snow sets in. And really beautiful if you get it with a little bit of snow. And in the spring, it's going to have one of the most beautiful colors that I've ever seen, or that maybe even you'll ever see. The buds or the cones that tamarack creates will be such an incredible red color. It's one of the most beautiful things to see. A lot of people who have tamarack near them or larch near them have a really good relationship with the timing of these and just spending time with it, because it's just so mesmerizing. For whatever reason, I guess this color doesn't happen too often, and when it does, it's really special. But we get lots of tamarack. I forget what vehicle that was, but those little buds that tamarack branches have on them, all those little buds where all those needles come out of, they fall off eventually. My puppy must have already ate like a half a pound of them. I don't know if that's good for them, but she didn't listen. But yeah, all those little buds get in your car. And like sometimes if I don't have time, I get somebody else to clean my car. These I don't know, Castrol or whatever will clean out your car for you. They always ask, like, what the heck are these? Your car is just full of it. It's everywhere. Every little nook and cranny had these little tamarack buds. And so oh man, I just love this tree so much. But yeah, hopefully that's enough images so that we understand exactly what it looks like. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. But yeah, right. The way that women, so one of the things that I like to share is that tamarack, when it's growing, it sheds its needles. And women shedding the endometrial lining every month, a lot of women already have a relationship with this tree, like, it's the only one that sheds its needles, and I'm shedding my endometrial lining every month, and so there's already a connection or a relationship there that's really fun to work off of, at least for memory's sake, or to help teach our kids, stuff like this. But what it is a blood builder. That's what it helps with. It helps create, stimulates the process to create new healthy blood. I think red blood cells, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not remembering exactly, but I think red blood cells are on a 3-month cycle. Every 3 or 4, or maybe it's 7 months, something real sacred like that anyways, where you'll have all new red blood cells in your body. And so when you go when you go poo-poo, a lot of that is red blood cells your body's getting rid of. It doesn't need those anymore. They're all dead, broken, dirty things. Get them out, create some new ones. So a lot of people, your feces is made up of mainly bacteria and dead red blood cells. And so, sorry if you're already eating supper. But if you when you use Tamarack, it expedites that process. See what happens with women, you're designed to be a blood building machine, and that energy system can become exhausted. When that energy system is exhausted, you will prioritize survival of the fittest, real brutal. You prioritize the creation of that endometrial lining. You prioritize reproduction over having healthy blood cells throughout your body. And so if all of your think of it this way, like if all of your body can only create a certain amount of blood, so much of that is always going to go to your endometrial lining. And because if you're too stressed out, or if you have some genetic issues, if you have bad diet and not enough sleep, all of those will hit your body's ability to produce blood, and you're able to produce less and less and less. Well, the same amount is always going to go to the endometrial lining no matter what. It has a priority above everything. And so what you're left with is your body will say, you know what, I don't have enough blood to create new healthy blood to have spreading oxygen and nutrients throughout my body. I could only make just enough for my endometrial lining. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep all of that old blood. I'm going to keep all of the cells that, even though they're not working properly, they're doing enough that I'm just going to hang on to them. And so what that means is that you're left with this system that says, in your body, that there's less oxygen being delivered to where it needs to go, which is why women are more susceptible to Alzheimer's. Main Alzheimer's risk when it comes to women being more elevated is because of the hypoxia associated, mild hypoxia associated with the lack of healthy red blood cells. So it's pretty simple. All Tamarack does is it comes in and it says, hey, you know what? All of this, here's all of the nutrients you need to create new healthy blood, and then here's a bunch of chemistry that stimulate that process. So now you're a blood producing machine, and it's really, really amazing. The feedback that I will have had with women for the last 10 years, when they start to use Tamarack, they'll come back like within a few days or a week or something, and explain that they feel like they have a brand new life. And it's always really, really amazing to be able to hear that, because, as a woman, you're probably used to low energy. Oh, and then you'll have one good week or one good day where your energy is solid. And then, it passes and you're like, well, I guess that was my one day this month where I actually felt good. And then you're just back to being a woman. And it's like real brutal. I can't believe the amount of stuff you guys go through. It's incredible. And then you just deal with it, the kids. And then my wife has the puppy and our daughter probably cooking supper, all this crazy stuff. And then with no energy. Like, I would be man flu all day, every day if I was dealing with this type of problem. But you guys are an incredible creature. So what happens then is you start producing all these new healthy blood cells, delivering oxygen everywhere, delivering nutrients everywhere. And then you feel like your energy level is constant and stable and high all month long. And so you just feel rock solid. And that's the main thing that I need us to remember about Tamarack, is that it's a blood builder, and you may be subject to this hypoxic issue because all of your red blood cells are being prioritized and you not enough blood. And so fix all of that, create a whole bunch of new healthy blood, and it's going to feel like you have a brand new life. That's what and it's kind of interesting too, because everybody usually says something different, like, I have lots of energy now, or things are going great. But the amount of times that I've heard the exact phrase of, it feels like I have a brand new life, is just undeniable, and it's due to those energy levels. So it's really amazing to be able to share, Tamarack to help support that. I can't imagine just running on E all month except for one day, and then you do all your traveling on that one day, and then you're on E the rest of the month. It's crazy. So the Tamarack is really, really incredible to be able to do that. And so you just think of Tamarack shedding its needles, you shedding the endometrial lining, or women shedding the endometrial lining, and this being a blood builder, being able to help with that creation of new healthy blood. That's the reason why Tamarack bark is in there. And when we asked my grandma, she just said, energy. Make you feel good. So now we have sort of, we have to deal with the energy levels and the blood issue. We have to deal with the cramping, and then we have to deal with the actual fixing of problems. So the red Osier dogwood, to be able to strengthen the uterus, to give it what it needs to be able to muscle off the lining every month. And so this is where I wanted to really explain to you the therapy of this crazy medicine. I'm so happy to be able to share with you guys. Holy man. My grandma and her retention of all of this is responsible for helping so many. It's absolutely incredible to be able to watch. And then I can't wait to see the impact that this session is going to have, or is even already having. I even saw some comments there. It's really, really cool. It's my favorite thing. Anyways, ash, Bwoyaak, or somebody asked earlier about the wiisagaak is black ash, which is Fraxinus nigra. Somebody already commented that. But wiisagaak, I guess... aagimaak as well. If you go up north, it's aagimaak because that's the one you use to make snowshoes. Akim is a snowshoe, or aagimaak is a bunch of snowshoes, and this is the snowshoe tree. So a lot of people up north will just refer to this as aagimaak. I guess I should have said that in the beginning too. But those are ash, and so the ash. This is the main sort of medicine, because what happens, not the main sort of medicine, it's the main therapy. This is what really does the bulk of the healing, the bulk of the therapy. Because if you have what happens, okay, so you have a weak uterus, muscling off the lining doesn't work anymore, so it spasms. What happens when it spasms is sometimes it rips and tears. And so what happens when you have a tear, you could see a tear, because there will be new blood. You'll have the old endometrial lining blood, and then you'll have a bunch of fresh blood. And that's evidence or indicating to you that there was a tear. What happens when you have a tear in the uterus is that your body basically sees a big hole there, like there's tissue missing in the tear. And so, just like Sudbury, they'll have potholes. Your uterus will be full of a bunch of potholes. And what happens when it has a bunch of potholes, unlike Sudbury, is your body will send a bunch of growth hormone there to be able to fill the hole. Sudbury just leaves them and doesn't pay your ball joint bills. And so the uterus will fill up that tissue. So all that growth hormone goes there to fill up the hole, to fill up the tear. What happens though is when you're too stressed out and you're not drinking enough water, not sleeping enough, everything sucks all the time. You watch too much Young and the Restless. Even your news feed is all stressful and everything is just madness. What happens is the uterus, for whatever reason, genetic, it could be anything, those growth hormones don't leave. So the uterus tears, fills up the hole, those growth hormones are still there, and that tissue continues to grow. As that tissue continues to grow, eventually we will refer to this as a uterine fibroid. And so that fibroid will continue to grow, and as it gets bigger and bigger, it doesn't really have to be that big to complete. What it does is just rob your uterus of all of the other hormones. It's stealing everything. It's just sucking all the energy, all the juices that are supposed to be all throughout your uterus. It's all going to the fibroid. It's such a thief, and it's using that, and it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. This is why uterine fibroids are the number one cause of a miscarriage and of a stillborn in every way outside of an accident, I guess. And so the reason why is also because of space, because the uterine fibroids are so big, the baby can only grow so big, and then eventually it's, it can't grow anymore, and so This is how much, and sometimes it's not enough of a growing time for the baby. And so the main reason, though, the main impact that a uterine fibroid is going to have is because it's stealing all of the hormones. It's stealing all of the estrogen, and then all of those, all of the growth hormones as well. And so because it's stealing everything, then there's improper development. But one of the things that I really wanted us to understand, one of the things that we could see sort of Paige talking about in the little talk that we had together, is that the uterus is stealing all the hormones and is stealing all of the proper function from the whole system. That fibroid is stealing everything. And so what happens if you have a fibroid is that you usually have a lot of, dysregulation and hormone production and presence throughout your female reproductive system. So that's evident in that you'll have some months you'll bleed real heavy, some months you'll be spotting, some months you won't even have your period at all, some months that you'll have 5, and like the timing is all off. And so you can never plan when to have a kid, because it just, you never know. So it makes everything really, really difficult. And so one of the things that we notice, one of the things that women notice when you start taking this, or even just ash on its own, is the timing of everything, it suddenly becomes so precise, so accurate, that and then a lot of even women will say, like real freaky too, that they're just like, I even synced with the moon. You know how like you live with a bunch of people, live with a bunch of women, and everything sucks for a few months until all the women are in sync. And then all the women are in sync in the house together, having their moon time at the exact same time every single month. I always thought this was one of the most fascinating things. When you start to use this medicine, for whatever reason, whatever freaky, I rely heavily on rigor, and things to me need to be very empirical and to be reproduced over and over again to have the same result. But this is just undeniable, how many women will use this medicine and within a few months be synchronized with the moon. It's really, really amazing. So everything is so easy to be able to time, and then to make pregnancy very, very much easier to achieve. But then throughout the pregnancy, because there's, so what the ash does as a medicine, the simplest thing, all it does is mediate growth hormones in the uterus. So what that means is that all of the growth hormones that are being sent to the uterus is mediated. There's only growth hormones present in the uterus itself, not in the fibroid. So VEGF, vasoendothelial growth factor, is one of the main hormones filling up that uterine fibroid with all of the blood vessels that it needs to be able to grow and oxygenate and do all of the things that it needs, all of the stuff that it needs to do to be able to grow. Now it's cut off. There's no more vasoendothelial growth factor being provided to the uterine fibroid. When there's no blood vessels being repaired and restored, it slowly will begin to die. When there's no more blood vessels present inside of the uterine fibroid, just like if there was no blood vessels present in your finger, you wrap an elastic band around your finger, eventually what happens is all those blood vessels will die. It'll turn black and fall off. That's exactly what happens to the fibroid. It has no more oxygen or nutrients going to it anymore. The endothelial tissue is not being created or repaired, and so it turns black and falls off. And there's two things that can happen. Maybe there's nuance as well, but the two main stories that I have is, one is real dramatic, like either women start drinking this for a couple days, and then you go to the bathroom, and you just think it's going to be a normal trip to the bathroom, and then this giant black thing comes out. And there's usually a little bit of blood associated with it too, because there's that last sort of tear that happens, like during exercise, especially. I guess maybe what's happening is the exercise sort of knocks it off, and then you go to the bathroom, and then you think you're dying. So what happened one time, craziest thing, is I I was doing a lecture. I think I was at Trent or I was at Laurentian. I was at a university anyway, and just a guest lecture. And my wife was sick, and my daughter was sick, and it was miserable. I wasn't. I didn't get sick for whatever reason, but they were just. It was miserable, and so I told the students like I'm gonna leave my phone on, so just in case something happens, I want to be able to just jet and be there for them. Oh yeah, no problem. So then I was like teaching away, and my phone was going off. I was trying to be nice to the audience there, and then they were like, check your phone, just telling me how to be a good husband. So I checked my phone, and then it was this, and then I went. It was Facebook notification. Oh, so I checked it out, and then it was a toilet. And the toilet was full of these big black things and a whole bunch of blood. Well, I mean, it takes a little bit of blood to cover a whole toilet. So anyway, it was real brutal, gruesome. And I was like, oh no. And then this woman was like swearing away at me, just livid. She thought I killed her. She thought she was dying, and she's going to the hospital. She's going to do imaging. She's I'm going to get arrested, and all this crazy stuff was happening. So I read her message, and I was like, oh my God, it's happened. I killed somebody. So I finished my lecture, and I went to the car. My wife was waiting outside, and I said, it's all over. I said, everything's all over. I don't know, like somebody got hurt from this medicine, and I don't know what to do. And it was like this real. It was like, wow, what the heck? What's happening? But so I said to that woman, I said, well, let me know what happens at the hospital. She went into emerge. The doctor looked at that image for like 2 seconds, and I was like, huh, looks like a fibroid. And he was like, yeah, fibroids. Let's check those out. And he did some imaging on her just there, like whatever, ultrasound or whatever. And there was no fibroids in her at all. No sign of them. And he was like, I think those are fibroids. What did you do? And then so it was real funny because I have screenshots of her, or I had screenshots of her being super mad at me and swearing away and everything, gonna arrest me. And then a real nice apology. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess those were fibroids and everything is normal. And I was like, oh man. This was like 10 years ago. And so I was real relieved. And then so this is what happened to her. So with the fibroid gone, then, once the timing is set and restored, you know when to get pregnant. You get pregnant, there's no fibroid in there, stealing all the nutrients and energy and hormones and space, then you're able to go through the pregnancy appropriately. But you don't use it throughout your pregnancy. You use it before to get to help with the getting pregnant part. Sometimes even for months with women. And then, according to my grandma, and then you get pregnant, nothing, and then maybe a little bit after, pregnancy, to help with the recovery. But it's mainly to get ready for pregnancy. And you'll sometimes how common uterine fibroids are, it's really devastating, and then how common miscarriages and stillborns are as a result of them is even more devastating. And so to be able to share with you guys something that can possibly help with that is really crazy, almost making me cut onions. But when you so that's the way it all works. There's some medicine to help immediately with the cramping, to help with energy in the blood, but mainly it's to help with this issue of a weak uterus, and then to help with the damage of a weak uterus, which is usually uterine fibroids, and so as well as ovarian cysts. So when women take this and you have something like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or you have ovarian cysts, then this seems to be the one. I've worked with a few, not so much, maybe a half a dozen or so, a very modest amount of women who had ovarian cysts and PCOS. And it's very unethical, and almost ashamed to say, but I always want to see if just ash works. And so far it has. And so, um, when everything is all working together, though, we start to once I started to realize, yeah, it really helps women get pregnant. Like one time too, like man, one of my favorite stories. So real fast, in Garden Village, I think it was Garden Village, we taught how to make women's medicine, and advertised for women's medicine, and then I got there, and there was a whole bunch of dudes. And then I remember me and Glenna were there like, what the heck? It's just a whole bunch of dudes there. And she was like, well, they all have women in their lives. They should make this too. And all throughout the week that we were there, there was just a couple of women come poke around, but mainly I just remember it being a bunch of young men. And so we were like, okay, let's just make it anyway. So we're cruising around, got all the medicine, and a bunch of nice strapping young fellas we got real lots, and we were working with that bark, taking it all off. I remember it was like November, but we were even outside because it was a real nice day. And then so we had like one of those gray plastic tables. We folded it out and we were outside, and we ended up like filling that gray plastic table with just a big mountain of Kwemshkiki, and so everybody took it. But there's real lots left over, and I remember Glenna asking like, what should we do with the leftovers? And it was kind of like, well, just make sure people get it who need it. And I guess what happened was there was a few women in the community who were having trouble getting pregnant, who used that medicine and had success, and who were a part of a community, I guess, in North Bay, or maybe even in Sudbury, but who were a part of a community of women who were clinically infertile. You have this situation in your relationship, and you want to be able to have the support that you need. And so there's support systems that fertility clinics help to facilitate. And some of these women were a part of those. And I guess what happens is they were successful, seemingly, thanks to this medicine. And so they shared it with all those women, all these other women from North Bay or from Sudbury or whatever, and just started giving it out, because we made so much with those guys. They must just been giving it out like candy. And I'll never forget this one. I was in Sudbury. I was at University of Laurentian University, and I was doing a lecture, and like, one thing you need to understand, me and my wife, we travel together, because I don't have my license. So if we want to make money, my wife takes me. Just recently I got my license, but for like 8 years she was my driver. Well, our driver. It was nice because we were always together. Like, there wasn't even like minutes where we were apart for the better part of a decade. It's a really, really good way to felt like it was real good for our relationship. But anyways, months go by, and I was at Laurentian University. I forgot I did this with Garden Village. It's like summertime. I was there in November. I'm not thinking about, I do this all day, every day. I'm not thinking about this all the time. Anyway, I get to the car, and my wife is looking at me kind of jokingly, but I could see like there's something different about the way that she looks. And I was like, what's happening here? And so I got in. She's like, did you see her message on Facebook? Because she's an admin on the Creators Garden, so she gets all the notifications. And so she was like, check your message. And I was like, whoa, whatever, brutal. So I was looking at my phone. I'm already like getting scared. What the heck's happening? And then this woman from North Bay basically just messaged me and said, thank you, I'm pregnant. Very, very non-specific. I was like, what the heck is this? I say, you must know, like, we're never apart. This is insane. And so the joking side takes over, and then she's laughing because, she read the whole story. And that was the story, that they got medicine that was shared from them, and they got my name from these some women in Garden Village, I guess, or it could have even spread even more. But yeah, they were basically saying, "Thank you, I'm pregnant." Mom was like, "What? Could have did that a little bit different," but it was real awesome. And then from there, that was a long time ago. I kind of want to ask Glenna when that was. But since there was a real big spell of a whole bunch of women who are basically saying the same thing. And it was then that I realized like this mixture is going to be like, this is really impactful. This is really incredible. These women were infertile and like contemplating divorce, or what these issues of setting their husband free kind of thing, and like real sad stuff. And then they were getting pregnant and going full term and having perfectly healthy babies and not having fibroids, and I was like, it was crazy. So then I started advertising, in our business with all of our partners, all of our communities, and started telling everybody, this women's medicine is awesome. We should do this too. And there was we did it for like it was a top requested program for so long, and every community that we took it to, there was dozens of these stories of women going through menopause, women who have trouble getting pregnant, women who have real horrible time during menstruation, and all of these amazing stories. Probably even by now, I would say quite a few hundred stories of how successful this medicine is, all start pouring in. And then in May, we did the stream just like this, teaching about this. And then a whole slew of amazing stories. Page is one we highlighted. Man, I just can't sing the praises of this enough. It really hits me a certain way. But lastly, I wanted us to understand ash a little bit more. So Bwoyaak, this is a women's medicine. It helps with the regulation and production of all of these different hormones that can go awry. And so, oh no, we're losing Betty. Just before you take off, Betty, don't let your phone die yet. You got to see this. This is my favorite thing. Ash is showing you that it's Kwemshkiki. It's women's medicine. Both white ash, black ash, is being very explicit to you that this medicine is for a woman. Not a man, a woman. And so you look at the bark, and I remember I went to, I'll just blow it up here so you could see it a little bit easier. I remember Kim in Wiki, she would always bring me in to go visit the elders. They would quilt and I would make them tea. We'd all drink our tea together, and sometimes they were getting new medicine. Sometimes they were getting medicine though from that they remember from when they were children. So it was real neat to be able to give it back to them and then watch their reaction. Like, this is so good. So I remember when I made ash, and so I put this up on the screen there. They had a little TV. I would go through slideshows and stuff like that, little presentations for them. It was real cute. While they were quilting and drinking tea. But then we got to ash, and we were drinking our ash tea, and it was real awesome. So I told them at the end, I said, here, check out this image. Hopefully it's big enough for you guys to see there. Put it on speaker view if it's not. But I said, look at that picture. That's Bwoyaak. That's the ash bark. And if you look closely at it, this is ash's way of showing you that this is women's medicine, not man's medicine. This medicine for a woman. And so they were looking at it real close, and then you could see them get all awkward because they're all, all our old people. And so they were looking at this and they were like, oh, I don't know if I should be looking at that. And then, I'll share the next, I explained to them too. Like I was like, well, in ecology, when we're looking at plant identification, the way that you identify ash, the way that you're looking at an ash tree, It's number one by the buds, which I'll show you in a second, but the bark, it's like X's, so like a lattice sort of pattern that the bark will have. And so I remember I was out with our buddy, and he when I showed him ash, I said, "This is women's medicine," and he saw the X's, and then he was like, "Oh, like X chromosome." I was like, "Yeah, X chromosome." Yeah, that's a real PG way to be able to share with you that one. But here, let me, I don't know, I gotta resize these all the time. But here, I'll show you, I think I have another one here of black ash, wiisagaak. So wiisagaak, same thing, you see those X's and you see that pattern. When I was at a mikuk though, I was with all of our elders, all of our, seniors were there quilting, because they got real awkward. And then I think one of them could just sense the awkwardness, and broke all the tension, and because she just screamed real loud. Oh, she went right up to the screen. She has her big glasses, and she looks in, and she's like, "Oh, I could see what you're talking about." And then she turned around and looked at everybody, and she just yelled real loud, "Vagina bark! That's what that is." And just straight up real loud. And then I got to show them the ash buds too, because the in the video, that's why I chuckled, because the ash buds, both the green ash, black ash, white ash, one of the most easy way to know you're looking at an ash would be the way the buds look. And in the field identification books, they will say it looks like moose hooves. But in this interpretation, when we're looking at a plant and looking at it in a way that we're understanding that this is women's medicine, not men's medicine, this is medicine designed for a woman, you could see, well, yeah, moose hooves, I guess. But ash is making it real clear that this is medicine designed for a woman, and to help with all of those potential issues that women can create or manifest during all of those transitionary periods. And this is our support for that. Now, if you take all of this and mix it together, there's such an incredible synergy that happens. And to be able to understand that this is a mixture that should be a part of every woman's life, right from the beginning, right until the end, is very clear. So I'm real happy to be able to share that with you guys. I did promise, though, to share with you the one root, right? So I'll type that out in the chat here. And I only have 5 minutes. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's pretty simple. Here, let me just Mshkiigwaatikonhs. It's called Mshkiigwaatikonhs, one root, because it's real freaky. When you pull it out of the ground, it's like a big, massive mat. But it's only one root. So that's what you say when you pick it. What the heck? It's just Mshkiigwaatikonhs. It's only one root. It's ridiculous. But it's blue cohosh. Blue cohosh. Colophyllum Thalactroides or giganticum. So in the chat there you have the writing. This one's going to be very important for you to have the writing of it, because you need to understand that it's blue cohosh, not black cohosh. Black cohosh is a European plant that's not even related to this one, that is used for women's health as well, but can be a little bit harsh and have negative consequence. Blue cohosh, though, is very, very gentle. And my grandma would say you'd make this medicine with all the barks, and you just add a little bit of that dust, a little bit of that powder to the mixture too. And you don't need too much, but yeah, just a little bit. I mean, if you have a lot of it too, it's not going to be, you would have to have a lot before it started to cause problems, but you don't need a lot. And so the main reason why I want everyone to understand that you don't need a lot of the blue cohosh is not because of safety, it's because of sustainability. You don't need too much. Don't bother picking a whole bunch or picking too much because you don't need it. It's just a very small amount. It does the same thing as ash, correcting and mediating growth hormones in and throughout the female reproductive system. And so to reject fibroids and cysts for the PCOS, and also like correcting and mediating the production of other hormones as well. And so when we're looking at the issues that women will have, hormone production during menopause, what's responsible for all of those symptoms, ash is the one that helps with this, and blue cohosh helps with all those as well. One of the reasons why I wanted to share this with you with you guys right now is because when you look out for this plant in the spring, it is freaky. Like, you would never want to have anything to do with this plant. It comes out of the ground super dark purple looking like this, and real freaky looking. And you're like, what the heck is this? That looks real deadly. Looks like not in the good way either, like in the deadly death way. But then it brightens up, turns nice and bright blue, and the flowers will turn yellow. It'll get these berries. It'll turn blue. So it's blue cohosh. And if you look at the leaf there too, the leaf, that's the same shape as a cervix. That's the way cervix looks. So when you look at this plant, you'll see that the leaves, it's like it has 200 little cervixes all over the place. Just again, that interpretive technique there. But blue cohosh, I guess, is mainly used during child delivery. So in later stages of delivery, it's used sometimes only if there's problems, but throughout anyways. It's the main thing that the main reason for that is for pain, to help the cervix become very nice, elasticy, and be able to achieve that full dilation. But in preparation for, of course, there's less need for it during the delivery. So my grandma only saw her mom use it a few times. Now midwives though use it all real lots, because women do not prepare no more. We're not taught this, so I'm excited to be able to share this with you guys. But yeah, very simple. The main reason why I wanted us to understand the cohosh, the blue cohosh, Caulophyllum phylacteroides or giganticum, is because it's very available. You can usually get this in tincture. I would not tincture the bark. That is way too delicious to enjoy the tea on a regular basis. This root tastes horrible. It tastes like dirt that's hot and irritating. And so it's kind of like, well, you're not going to enjoy that. You could put a little bit in there if you want, but chances are you're not going to enjoy the blue cohosh. But it does deserve a mention in a program like this, though, because of its ease of use. You get a tincture, put a couple droppers in a shot of orange juice, and it's down the hatch, and the next day you're not hot flashing anymore. Like, it's so impactful that way too, and it's very easy to use, easy to access. And so what a lot of people end up doing is making the Kwemshkiki, or getting it made for them, grandkids or whatever, cousins, nephews, get them to make it, and using that, and then just a couple shots of blue cohosh here and there, doing this during and throughout every one of those transitionary periods to help with everything. So it's really, really amazing, and it really does deserve a good solid mention, just because it, if you make this medicine, some of us can do it in a day, some of us will have to travel to get what we need, and some of us might not even be able to travel. It's a lot of different things, but the blue cohosh, you could honestly just order it online as well. And there's no risk around the species or over harvesting and sustainability. So it's generally pretty easy to get a hold of, and very, very impactful when it comes to a woman and her ability to live a good, healthy, normal life, and not just become an expert in upping that pain tolerance threshold. But yeah, that's important too. And if you do order it online or anything like this, you could get it and just follow the directions on the bottle. A tincture is a ethanol or alcohol extract, and it's totally fair game. It's one of the few that I will tincture. I don't really do that too often, but yeah, the blue cohosh roots are harvested in the fall, and so but most harvesting companies will have this out and available all year. The bark though can be done anytime. That's what I love so much about this medicine, is that anybody can make it anywhere, anytime, and it's absolutely incredible. And then you start throwing like the mixture of barks, throwing some cohosh in there. It's insane. So, yeah, and you'll get in the oh, I recognize that name, Jackie Wilkins. Yeah, equal portions. The YouTube video that I sent around with the link, that YouTube video goes over the instructions how to make it, how to process it, and on there I did mention that yeah, just equal portions, and you could do whatever you want too. Like I always tell everybody to sort of follow your nose kind of thing, and I think Paige mentioned that in hers. It could have been when we were chatting before, but yeah, you just sort of follow your nose, and if you really like Tamarack, or if you really you understand, you don't have fibroids, you don't have ovarian cysts, but you have super low energy, well, maybe you could hold back on the ash a little bit, add a little bit more Tamarack. I wanted us to understand that all of this is done to taste, and that yeah, you make it so that it tastes good, and if that means tweaking the portions, there's no negative consequence to that. And so yeah, I want to take a second and be able to address anybody's questions. Just got to get this participant window out of the way. There we go. You know what? I'm actually thinking of just putting that YouTube video somewhere where just kind of anybody can watch it. But I was thinking that might not be a good idea. Anyways, I'll see if I can resend the emails. Man, I've never sent so many emails in my life for this. Holy man. And I saw like must have been around 200 people. I sent way more emails than that. Holy guacamole. But how about if you don't have the link, then send me a message and I'll send it to you there. Be way easier to manage than sending everybody. I wonder how many of you guys got double emails. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. Yeah, so yeah, Jackie, I think I covered that in the video. You just make it however it tastes good. Little toddler size handful usually works, and yeah, if it tastes too strong, then use less. If it tastes too weak, use more. Figure it out for yourself. Yeah, and so also if you're in the city, I've had a lot of people, even in Ottawa, I've had people make this medicine using transit in Ottawa, and just sort of understanding that the potential for accumulation of different pollutants could be happening in the tree from the city or something like this, probably outweigh the pros probably outweigh the cons. So I had people in Ottawa, I think this is because of our work with Wabano, using city transit and cruising around the city until they got everything they needed, and being able to make it even in Ottawa, and yeah, just weighing the pros and cons of maybe environmental pollutions and still doing it. And then still, the whole pregnancy story and everything like that. So I would try to see if you'd be able to make it yourself even in the city. The other thing that I wanted to say too, though, and I'll put this in the chat, our buddy Matt Levac, he makes it We taught him how to make it. I actually think maybe even I taught Biraman how to make it, then Biraman taught him. But anyways, he made it real good. He makes all of our for our Creators Garden programming. Matt makes all of the medicines that we distribute to the participants for all of our other usual programming. And so all of it goes through my wife too. My wife has to smell everything, taste it, and because she's real intense, and making sure that it's okay, and or that it's to the standards. And Matt's been hitting that pretty good. So he made extra in anticipation of this, and so I guess you could find them on I think it's Levac 88 or something. Are you there, Matt? Why don't you just put your stuff on there? But yeah, he's on Facebook, and you could usually find him, and maybe I'll share it up on the Creators Garden page anyways. But if you really can't get it yourself, then there would be even an option there. That again too is donation based. Let me go up, make sure I didn't miss any of your questions. Oh, we were around 35 years ago. I forget. I feel real bad when that happened, when people say that. Okay, so here's a good one. My daughter has PCOS and high iron. Is Tamarack still safe? Real safe. Tamarack's one of my favorites. So you have high iron or even low iron. It restores a couple really sensitive sort of processes that iron really well. I don't want to get all lost in the weeds again. It helps a lot, and so I've seen both results from low iron and high iron being restored, and that's just because of the absorption of it is repaired if you're absorbing too much or not enough. That sort of thing. And then even people too feel like if you're on a prenatal or if you're on a women's supplement, sometimes they make your belly feel you feel sick because of all of the iron. And the iron hurts your tummy. When you start to use the Tamarack, for whatever reason, that goes away, and that reason is because of it increasing your body's ability to absorb the iron from what you're eating from the supplements. So then there's even that. Aspirin allergies, everything. We always got to be nervous of allergies every time we're eating something new. These are all new. So yeah, you got to kind of watch. But my experience, there hasn't been any allergies associated with any of these plants. In all of the reach that we have never had one story of this Kwemshkiki causing a problem. And all of these plants don't have any salicylates or don't have any aspirin-like compounds. A lot of people say red willow, but it's not red willow, it's red Osier Dogwood, which is salicylate free. So people who have aspirin allergies, even really sensitive ones, do just fine using the Kwemshkiki. So that was a really good question. It looks like Jackie got a YouTube link. I think I know who that is now. But are you planning on interested in doing more writing in the future? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Book's been coming soon for like 6 years. Yeah. Yeah, so many emails, I know. Well, because some people are like getting the email and they're like, I didn't get the link. And then, anyways. A lot of you got doubles or triples. Are these medicines okay for someone who's allergic to ibuprofen? Yes. And that's one of the things too that I didn't mention either is the ibuprofen use and with women like menstrual pain issues is really, really devastating. Really, really hard on your kidneys and potential, digestive ulcers. Stomach ulcers and intestinal ulcers. Aspirin or ibuprofen or Advil is the leading cause of gastric ulcers in Canada and the US, and so yeah, you got a lot of that. And so the value that this medicine has in the prevention of the need to use NSAIDs like Advil and ibuprofen is very invaluable. So that's a really good point too. A couple thank yous. Hotspots. Ontario is an entire hotspot for all three. All three grow throughout the entire province. The only one that is in the far north, you're going to run out of ash a little early. But this is something that you can make throughout the entire province and beyond. And then even thanks to invasive species like the European larch and the Viburnum opulus, you can still find these, outside of the normal range of Tamarack or outside of the normal range of Viburnum trilobum, you could still find the opulus. So that there's even an option there. Heidi's question, how often do you drink it? I always tell everybody enjoy it. I mean, if you have 3-4 cups a day, that's awesome. That's an intense therapy. But no one's gonna have like 8 cups of this every day. I mean, you'll get over we only have one banana. We might have a bundle of bananas on the counter, but we're only gonna have 1 or 2 a day. If even that. You're not gonna eat a whole bundle of bananas just because on Facebook it said there's potassium, something like this. You have a certain capacity to say, yeah, I'll have a couple cups. So you could, if people really want like a prescription, then have some in the morning, at noon, and before you go to bed. 3 cups a day, that's plenty for an intense therapy. But you can go outside that. You can have 5 cups in a day. You can have 8 cups in a day. But I'm not going to tell you to have 8 cups every day, because then you're not going to like it. And that's the only reason why. It's not because of safety. It's because you're going to get sick of it and you're not going to want to have it anymore. Just like if I told you to eat a bundle of bananas every day, you'll get 3 days in and you'll be half vomiting every time you eat a banana. So it's not because of safety. It's just because 3 to 4 cups a day, 5 cups a day, that's what you can enjoy. You can do that every day for the rest of your life and you're always going to enjoy it. So I hope that makes sense for Heidi and everybody else. You just use the barks for Laverne. Womb Shanty. Oh, it's solid. Do you offer this as a tea or as a tincture and a tea? Like I said, just make tea with the barks and tincture with the cohosh. And so have a bunch of tea on a regular basis. Enjoy that throughout the transitions. And then as needed or sort of as desired, the cohosh tincture does really well. Just have a lot of, the reason why I wanted to mention the one super special root is because a lot of people don't want to make the whole women's medicine thing, find all of the trees, and you get all inspired and you get outside and all the trees look the same and you're like, I don't like this game. Just going to order that cohosh and everything will still be okay. And in that, you're going to want the tincture just because you could disguise that in a shot of orange juice. And to drink the tea, you're not going to want to do that maybe even more than once. I don't even think my wife even finished her cup. But we could slam those tinctures all day. I hope you're able to send a replay. Yeah, so what I recorded it and everything seemed to have worked. So what I'll do is I'll restream the video for next week, and I'll do Sunday. I'll post about it, and so you could watch it again. Or if you missed it, then you could watch that one too. Oh man, that's a whole bunch more emails. Anyways, yeah. Oh, there's Matt. No, and so for Janet's question there, that's another real good question. If you could drink it with other teas too, because people will have cedar tea every day or Labrador tea every day, and a lot of people have scouring rush every day. Now there's another one to add, and you think, is this too much? And it's not too much. This is the way that it normally would work. I mean, my grandma, all like cedar and Tamarack, cedar and Labrador tea always on the stove. And then there was more tea that you would have to enjoy. And so So yeah, you can add it to the mix, and it's only gonna help. Um, um, Adding to the previous question, aspirin, ibuprofen allergies. What about acetaminophen allergy? Same dealio. I've never had anybody with an allergy or have an allergic reaction to this mixture. But I mean, just having anything new, there needs to be a certain amount of caution expressed. I never had this before, so see how it feels, and yeah, generally, or totally, everybody has been okay. Acetaminophen allergy is not common at all. But tea made me laugh quite a few times there. I have fibroids, arthritis, and fibromyalgia. What should I treat first? Or can I take all the medicine at the same time? So that's actually what we would do. Like in traditional Anishinaabe sort of way of practicing medicine is you take all the problems wrong with somebody, cirrhosis of the liver, COPD, PCOS, and arthritis, and all these different problems, and you give them medicine to help with all of those. Take from your medicine cabinet, combine it all, and say, this is what you need. And so this is what will help you. And so it's the medicine people who have the repertoire to be able to do that. And hopefully me with a platform like this will be able to share with you so you could create your own repertoire and say, well, I need all of this. So that's how it's done. And so I would say take them all at once. The only thing with that is that it sometimes doesn't taste too good. So a lot of people will, start with one and sort of slowly knock them all down. So yeah, I hope that answers. Oh yeah, okay. So, a children's medicine, yeah. Hoping I do a children's medicine session. That's one of my favorite programs. I think there's a episode on our Patreon, an audio of children's medicine. If it's not there, I just haven't edited it yet. But I really love children's medicine, yeah. Especially since I've been through, or going through with my girl now. Ruth is 7, so we've gone through, the major sort of childhood issues. And medicine plays a really important role in all of that. I really love sharing that too. The aspirin one is important. Have to go supper, okay. Jocelyn Carter, I've been identifying the last 6 months in the station. If anyone wants to join me. Oh, sweet. Yeah, network. Sure. So with so many ash dying, do the ash borer, can we substitute with anything? No. So that yeah. So with the emerald ash borer, you're harvesting saplings, and so these are non-reproducing trees. And when you harvest the sapling, the energy storage in the roots, you take one sapling away, and it'll clone itself, and it can clone itself almost a dozen times. So when you remove one sapling, you're causing there to be more that will grow. And so for sustainability reasons, worried about the emerald ash borer, or worried about having to look for substitutions. You have the cohosh, but also it's important to understand that you're actually even causing more to grow. So you might even be or are helping out with the sustainability issues regarding harvesting ash. That's a really common one, so thank you for asking that. Entering menopause. Yeah, oh man. Yeah, I know, and then everybody uses it for menopause, and then turns into Oprah giving this to all of the young women, and then all of those. I just love it when it spreads like a virus, for completely lack of a better term. But when you get an experience with this, it just spreads. Yeah, then you start giving it away, and then everybody's using it, and it's just a real amazing thing. Um, so no, none of those. So Anne Marie, would tamarack be one of the plants you could use in pregnancy? And you don't, I wouldn't use anything in pregnancy. I wouldn't ever advise anybody to ever use anything during pregnancy. It's just such a sensitive time. The only things that I have been comfortable enough to encourage is the use of blue cohosh or the ash during delivery. So like once you're already there and you're like a couple centimeters in and can't even hold a conversation anymore, that's when you have it. You don't have it in the beginning because this might not be pregnancy and there might be harm done. It's such a delicate time that I honestly tell everybody don't bother having anything. But the use of cohosh during delivery is just becoming so common, and the effectiveness of it is pretty outrageous. And so, so yeah, I wouldn't use anything really, and then no, I wouldn't use tamarack. But yeah, um, um, well, heavy menstruation, yeah. So, the heavy menstruation. Um, um, yeah, I don't. Well, I mean, yeah, the whole mixture. Um, I guess what I could say then is just again that this is Kwemshkiki. This has all of the main medicines that help with every organ, system, and process that can develop problems in a woman, and this is medicine to help solve those or to help provide therapy to those things that have gone wrong. And so the heavy menstruation, yeah, is actually a pretty common one. And I think I've narrowed that one down to just tamarack, but I don't want to say that for certain yet. The whole mixture helps. It helps so far from my experience every single one of the times. But I've been experimenting for a while trying to identify which one helps with this, or does it have to be all of them? Can I just get people to use tamarack? And so far, most people have gotten away with just the tamarack, but certainly the whole mixture. Yeah. So that was another good question. Do you know of any resources or recommend on where to find these ingredients in other areas? I tell everybody to just get a plant identification book. Like you could get a field ID book that'll help you know which plant you're looking at, and find them. Resources for this type of knowledge, though, I can't really recommend any, just because of the error in them. In any resource that's created on indigenous use of plants or whatever, usually just is full of problems that I can't even recommend it. So the only one that I would actually suggest is to get a field guide, get comfortable using one of those. You could get an extensive plant identification guide, which wouldn't be something that can fit in your pocket. It would be like a giant textbook. And those will be very handy to give you what you need to be able to find the plants. Um, yeah, thanks to my grandma. I know. uh, blocked fallopian tubes. Yeah. And that, same thing, maybe just a half a dozen. Oh, blocked with scar tissue. Scar tissue from endometriosis. Yeah, so scar tissue can be looked at. Scar tissue from endometriosis can be looked at as basically like a fibroid. Scar tissue is fibroid-like tissue, and like when we use skin medicine for all the scarring on our skin, because skin medicine, these bark baths will mediate growth hormones in the skin, causing extra tissue to become hormonally rejected and either reabsorbed or rejected. And so until the scar tissue is replaced with normal tissue, that's what happens if you have a bunch of scar tissue inside of the uterus or inside of the ovarian, in the ovaries, or throughout the fallopian tubes. If there's scar tissue, that scar tissue is hormonally rejected, and I think it's usually reabsorbed, because in all of our experience with the scar tissue from endometriosis is that you don't pass anything like you would a big hunk of fibroid. It just seems to be reabsorbed by your immune system. Let me see if I could finish this question. Will this mix help clear blocked fallopian tubes? Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, maybe just a couple, maybe half a dozen stories of blocked fallopian tubes uh, becoming resolved, and the ovulation resuming, stuff like this. But not that much. I mean, I would do what my grandma does and throw this at any problem you could ever imagine, because that's what her mom said. And so that's what I'm saying. But in my experience with the blocked fallopian tubes is really, really minimal. And for, I think, only in southwestern Ontario. Beer awesome if you're from southwestern Ontario too. Man, there's problems down there. This pollution is brutal. But anyway, the endometrium, rather than fully shedding, attaches to the other organs in my body. Oh, adhesion. Yeah. So that's the other thing too. I mean, like, I don't have time throughout the formal programming to mention all of these maybe more nuanced things, but the adhesion is very, very common. And yeah, just real simple. No one reports adhesion continuing to happen after using this medicine ever. And so I would say that it helps a lot, yeah, or that it's a solid option to consider, yeah, especially considering that nothing else works anyway. But yeah, it's really amazing. Thank you so much for mentioning adhesion. Awanuk. But or have you heard of women specifically with multiple diagnosis that, yeah, so we've had I mean, the really typical story is ovarian cysts or PCOS, uterine fibroids, irregular menstruation, clinically infertile, even having what's the oh man, losing my words. Hysterectomy, having a hysterectomy on Saturday, and like yeah, just multiple issues and all at once, and then engaging with this sometimes even just in our programming, like I'll make a pot of tea and then they come back the next day like, what the heck, man, like something is happening and feels great. Cancel the surgery and stuff like that, or become reassessed before the surgery and then the doctor cancels your surgery. You can't just cancel surgery. But yeah. Michelle, this amazing. Thanks so much. Oh, Jennifer, an elder I know, is having pain from calcium crystals in her blood. Calcium crystals or oxalate or uric acid. I mean, it's actually really cool. The high bush cranberry, people who, when you have too much calcium, you suffer effects from that. And sometimes when people use the high bush cranberry, some of their calcium storage issues begin to resolve. I mean, you need calcium, you need magnesium to be able to get the calcium. It's a buffer or transporter of calcium, and so it's important. And when you don't have calcium, if you don't have magnesium, then the calcium is just sort of roaming around free. With the magnesium, you're actually able to shunt that into into transport to get it to where it needs to go, like your bones or like your nervous system. It's very, very important there. So if you're not absorbing calcium, that's a huge issue. Magnesium, super important. High bush cranberry, lots more magnesium. Being allowed to stay in your body means a lot more calcium being sent to exactly where it needs to go. So I hope that makes sense for... who asked that? Did I lose questions? Oh yeah, Jennifer. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so hopefully that's pretty awesome. What about breaking up scar tissue from the surgery on the ovaries? Yeah. So post, yeah. if you ever had surgeries like from the PCOS, and yeah, you're left with scar tissue, so the same thing, just mediating growth hormone in and throughout the female reproductive system, scar tissue is going to be rejected and reabsorbed. So are there any contraindications with medicine or medical conditions? No. So one of the things to understand here is, I'm just a kid. My experience, I would consider it to be minimal. With the Kwemshkiki, with this particular medicine, in maybe a few hundred different stories that we have with the community work that we do, and then with the online work that we do now, it's really, really amazing. And we've had a slew of different women on antidepressants, on anxiolytics, or on blood pressure medication, on blood thinners, on metformin, on rapid insulin, on all these different things, with concerns. One thing that we have to understand is that we're having tea, and we're making this tea so that it tastes good. So it's not like this outrageously strong concentrated extract thing. You're having tea, and it's very gentle. It does what it's supposed to do. You're not having the most outrageous amounts, and so that's really important to consider and understand too. Is the safety profile of this has been tremendous so far, very, very safe, and helping. Seemingly only helping. I mean, I am just a kid. I'm sure I'll get some experiences in the future, but yeah, I would say that the risk for contraindication is quite low, especially considering the benefits and the inability of the Western medicine. The lack of ability there. There's nothing they could do for most of these problems anyway. Maybe some hormone therapy that can probably just cause more problems. Actually, let's just take the whole system out of your body, and you have a hysterectomy, and then that's it. That's all. So that's not much of a solution, and so that's a fun idea to think about too. Diane Fortin, which one of these medicines should I use for menopause? Honestly, like if you're having issues with menopause, ash, you don't have to look any farther from ash bark tea, or you could just get the blue cohosh tincture. You're going to have very similar results. Usually, sometimes even the day of, but some of these, take a little bit longer to come in, especially, so what I've noticed is that in women who are obese, tend to take a very long time to respond to the medicine, versus women who have a lot less body fat, seem to just it like hits them the same day. So that's really fun to consider, and to understand the physiology, exactly what's happening there, is really fun too, beyond the scope of this Q&A session, but that's really good stuff. Let's see. Thank you, Emerald Ash Borer. So the borer, Emerald Ash Borer, not really playing a huge issue right now. I mean, working with some environmental organizations, different forestry groups, and actually being able to understand this as a stimulus to the species is a really neat idea. Just with the suckers, or with the ground, with the roots, cloning that tree from the saplings that you're taking. It's pretty neat. Lots of miigwetches. More potassium in potatoes than a banana. More potassium in a nightshade. Is that a good thing? Just kidding. I just found out potatoes are nightshades. I mean, everybody's like, oh, nightshades. The lectins are all gonna die. Grundry. But for whatever reason, I just found out recently that potatoes are a nightshade. I mean, I'm not saying don't eat potatoes, but a little bit though. But anyways, wait. So what we know to be red willow is red osier dogwood? Yeah. Or if you're in Six Nations, it's red whip. Just kidding. It's red whip everywhere too. Whoa, Anne Marie, pregnancy in Tamarack. No, I wouldn't use Tamarack during pregnancy. Leroy. Oh, Leroy, if you make a pot, how long will it last in the fridge or just drink warm? Uh, if it's not rotting, if it doesn't have fuzz on it, if it smells good, if you taste a little bit and it tastes good, it's still going to be good. But if you look at it and it's covered in hair, it's trying to grow fur, then it's not good. Or if you smell it and it doesn't smell good, then it's not good. And then if you taste a little bit and it doesn't taste good, then it's not good. It's actually really amazing because I think that if every woman, not every woman, maybe I shouldn't overgeneralize like this, but if you go out and you just get a few trees of each, you'll have a few liters, a few couple liter mason jars full of the medicine sort of ready to go and make throughout the year. That's enough for the whole year. So if you just get a couple trees more, you could factor in for all the mistakes you're gonna make when you make it too strong and you gotta spill it out, or if you, I mean, just being honest, but if you make it too strong and then you're not gonna drink it, then toss her. And you really kind of have to allot for the mistakes that you're gonna make. You need to become an expert in making this tea, something you've never done before. Like when you have to make your first turkey dinner. But that didn't go good the first time. And if it did, you're probably just yelling at everybody. So you kind of have to get enough to practice. And there's no harm done. All of these trees respond to you picking. There'll be more. So picking it is causing there to be more. So you're helping all of these plants. All these plants are helping you. So get a couple more. Make some mistakes and get good at it. Yeah. So are there any contraindications with I thought, yeah. So I just answered that one. Are the medicines boiled or steeped? They're steeped. So just like in the instructional video, the YouTube video, you just put it in a bunch of hot water. Just let it steep and cool off naturally throughout the night. No boiling. Boiling is always bad. So are there any contraindications with Western? Oh, how many times Don asked that? Yeah. It is a real big issue though, a really big concern. And it's honestly my most extensive area that I've studied, compared to like all of the, physiology and biochemistry, all of the different research that I look at. Contraindication is what I look at the most. And so I'm pretty confident. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty confident, in that. And been having a lot of fun, I go to Fleming, and since have scheduled to be able to teach in different toxicology programs in Ontario, at different schools in Ontario, just because I was so concerned about this that I studied it so much, and I could generally speak to it eloquently enough that I get invited to post-secondary institutions. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, the recording should be fun. I know a lot of us were in and out. It's probably just internet issues, and man, I would facilitate the more than happy to restream the session next week. Maybe on Sunday. I was thinking Sunday evening. Emerald Ash Borer again. Oh yeah, I only got 114 more questions to go. Cool, thank you. I'm I'm at work, so it'll be hard to be 100%. Yeah, okay, so there. Oh, there we go. A whole bunch of thank yous. Scouring Rush is evergreen. Joni, you could get that all year. No matter, you could dig it out in the middle of the snow. Downtown Toronto is still gonna be good. Will this mix help to clear blocked fallopian tubes? Oh, okay, so got that one. Are there contraindications? Oh, Don again. Wonder how many of these. What's happening? What are my messages? Am I reading the same things? Boil water, let the water settle, and add the bark overnight. Steep. Yes. Do any of these plants stain for a natural dye? The tamarack is used as to tan light colors because of its lack of tannins. But for colors, no, none of those. The ash, red osier dogwood, hybrid cranberry, no, none of those are really are good dyes. Oh, I know you, Cleland, Demon Cleland. I remember you. No, not used to dye yarn. And also for yarn, if your yarn is made of wool, only animals dye animals and plants dye plants. So if it's cotton, then plants will dye it. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to get the color that you want. I just learned that not too long I really like saying. It makes me sound like I know everything about dying, but I don't. Just that. um, Heading off. Okay. Gotta go. Okay. Mossy Cho. Hey, what does that mean again? What language is that? Mossy Cho. Oh, that's from a TV. Oh, that's from Molly of Denali. That's like up north, eh? Like Inuit? Mossy Cho. We're cool. Okay, so a presentation for autoimmune coming soon. Balsam poplar has similar bark pattern. Do you think it would be possible substitute for ash? No. And you take one sip of balsam poplar and you're never going to want to look at that tree again. It's one of the most disgusting things to ever touch your mouth. It'll be stuck in there for hours too because of a bunch of oleoresins in the bark too. Ugh. Good thinking though. And I know what you mean about the bark patterns. Will this medicine help our bodies that are recovering from COVID? Yeah, you're probably going to get some sort of, benefit. I would say, NRF2 activation, anti-inflammatory sort of stuff, but not where you're really going to want it, like the cardiovascular system medicine, like striped maple, or the lung medicine, like Seneca snake root, stuff like that. That's what you need to recover. Maybe we'll do a session on that later too. Man, lots of thank yous. Thank you guys so much. Rick, this felt so awesome doing this too. Like I was telling my wife, like I've never felt, for whatever reason, more how do I say, I was just really overwhelmed with the response that you guys had. The amount of people that come to hang out. Yeah, like over 200. This is just only something I did a couple weeks ago. It was incredible. Low iron during pregnancy. So in the preparation, using the Tamarack to prepare for pregnancy, getting that iron corrected, then getting pregnant, the iron levels haven't dropped. And I have a couple of really cool stories I'm following right in local to me of iron issues, some low and some high, and all of these women, childbearing age. So that's going to be something I'm going to really hone in on with just a local group here. Rainy Gaywish, I had a real hard time finding your email. It was brutal. But excellent, much appreciated. So many young people seem to be dealing with anxiety disorders. Would appreciate a session on what to do. Mental health session. Okay. I appreciate that the hibiscus cranberry might be a good one for that too. Yeah, it actually is. And given that we're focused on Kwemshkiki, women's medicine, I didn't really get to speak to that too often, but I think, yeah, just to get some of you guys rolling on the potentials that this mixture can have outside of women's medicine, like mental health and anxiety and relaxing and all that stuff. So that's real good thinking there. Awesome. You guys are awesome. For sustainability, is there ideal time to harvest the ash so the seedling is spread? So only mature trees are spreading seeds and responsible for seed distribution. Young ash trees are not, and that's what you use for the medicine. So and then that's what's going to have enough storage in the root system to be able to clone itself up to 12 times. Yeah, I really like the amount of sustainability questions coming in. Tried it in the soda stream, foamed up like beer. Yeah, I mean, some soda stream better than the others. I blew that thing up in my kitchen before. Actually, I blew it up when I was telling everybody that, look, you could even use it in a soda stream. Then I buzzed it up and it just blew up, and I bet no one there bought a soda stream. But yeah, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then if it foams up, it's not a bad thing. There are some negative aspects to carbonation itself. There are some positives too, like even with increasing your ability, the how fast you actually absorb nutrients from carbonated beverages is higher. I'm sorry, faster, not higher, faster. That's all. So it hits you real hard, real fast. But then, yeah, so I learned a lot looking for, okay, so older women can use these medicines. You can have this medicine every single day for your entire life, right from when you're old, right till the end. And it's only going to benefit. And then have more when you're going through a transitionary period. Just wanted to ask as well, I mentioned bee balm in a podcast during pregnancy in some cases. Is there a time of year? I don't know if I did during pregnancy. During pregnancy, bee balm? No, I'd have to say no. I didn't say that. I never say anything during pregnancy. I'm always real scared. Maybe that was from another guy, maybe. Afterglow. Okay, sweet. Different. Oh yeah, because Leroy, the addictions one. 90% of my job talks I found in Manitoba. Yeah, there we go. Some support from Manitoba. Just had Mskwabiimnagonhs by itself. Would not recommend it without. Yeah, well, you could do it. You could do it good. You just use less. Try, experiment a little bit. You know, maybe even leave a little bit of that outer bark. Leave it out of the whole situation. But the Mskwabiimnagonhs can be done so that it's tolerable. That you might say, you know, when you have a headache or something, you might reach for it. But sometimes you could mess it up so easy, like accidentally put a little bit too much in, and it's just one of the most awful things to touch your mouth. That you'll take the acute liver injury from the Tylenol over the Mskwabiimnagonhs any day. But inner outer bark, yeah. So Tina, you're gonna have to DM me, get that video, YouTube video, all the instructions how to make it, finding it, harvesting it, processing it, brewing it, everything. Any ash and pick? You got, I think you're just like right on the, there was definitely like some community members who knew what it was. I mean, like aagimaak is what they would call it. I mean, there was loads when I was in Grassy, and you guys are like on top of Grassy a little bit, but you'd be near the cusp of no more ash trees anymore in Kwemshkiki. But yeah, I know I did find everything else though. The Tamarack, the high-bush cranberry we got on shore there, and then the ash, and then the red Osier Dogwood all over the place too. So yeah, I mean, you might have to go a little bit south, but lucky everything's frozen now. It'll be real easy to go and find. Take Amy for a cruise. And I love it in Pecanch. You know what? Tamarack, you guys are answering each other. Sweet. Oh, the questions. There's still more questions. So many experience thoughts. Oh, thoughts about using Tamarack as opposed to lorazepam for postpartum or other related depression. So it's actually really interesting. I've worked with a lot of people who use this like in preparation for, or not even like religiously either, just having this and then engaging with it, even though it's on a monthly basis. They only remember when they're having a cramp. And so once a month, they'll have it here and there. This will eventually take a toll over the course of, a year or a few years for a woman. But for a lot of people who are on antidepressants or very susceptible to postpartum, like with previous births, notice that when they use the Kwemshkiki in preparation to the pregnancy, there was like absolutely not even a little hiccup of postpartum when it was very bad before. And so, yeah, I guess this would be very correlative, though. I wouldn't be too quick to jump to any conclusions on this exactly, but it's been pretty consistent. So I would be surprised if a woman used this to prepare for pregnancy and continued to suffer depression or have postpartum depression afterwards. Lots of questions. Thank yous. Laughing. I know. Oh my God. Some of these are real funny. A woman who doesn't have regular menstruation. So regular menstruation, not having fibroids generally, or a hiccup in hormone production or absorption, then irregular menstruation. So when all of this is corrected. Yeah. So oh yeah, low magnesium is pretty rough, Leah. Thank you. Oh, cramps, yeah. Anyone in Dokis, yeah. Hopefully you get your hands on some hybrid cranberry there. Oh, I skipped your question. My bad. How do you make the tea? All the barks, trees? Yeah, so take all the bark off, mix them all together, take a toddler-sized handful, drop it in a gallon of hot water, and let it steep for the night. Can't go wrong. Actually, you can. So you should get the YouTube video. I think Jackie shared it up there. Again, if you want the YouTube video of the instructions, just private message me and I'll send it to you. Hypothyroidism. Yeah, so a couple weird things with hypothyroidism. I wouldn't use this directly for hypo or hyper, but I've had a few who are hypo and then they use this medicine and they're slightly hyper. And then I've had hyper who they're still hyper, but it's down a lot, but then with hyperthyroidism it's real funny because your metabolism's real fast, so you eat like crazy all day, and then all of a sudden this medicine sort of brings it back a little, and it usually comes with, it's worse than your COVID gain. But oh, you didn't finish watching the video. Well, hopefully you'll be able to watch it. I'll share it again. Thank you for answering the question. Thank you. Is this good for post-menopause? Yeah. We're very elderly. Yeah. Even just in Wiki, when we were doing this with the elders group, or with Aagimaak, our senior center, they had some really phenomenal results. And I think a lot of those were around pain and sensitivity to pain and waking up from pain. So obese should be double your mixture. No, just Joni, be patient. Oh man, yeah. I mean, just it'll just take a little bit longer. That's all. Rick, man, killing me. Joni, a real solid follow on Facebook. It's about equal parts more. Okay, you're answering each other. If I make it too strong, I add some hot water, tone it down. So yeah, it's last a little bit longer. Oh, nightshades. Now we're talking about nightshades. Find who makes the medicine, so I see. Well, Sherry Noble there, message me, and I'll help with everybody there, or even just a post. But yeah, red willow is the same as dogwood. Yeah, generally, or even red whip. Questions are getting repetitive now. Do you have any experience with hyperthyroidism? Frick, I feel like that just happened. My son's getting all wiry, so I'll have to get off and chase him around. Oh, okay, yeah, sweet. I'm so glad all of you guys got to come. I feel like I recognize all your names. Yeah, it's been, okay. Oh, Masi chose Dene from the north. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was funny. Molly. Okay, I'm just scrolling past the miigwetches here looking for some questions. I think I got like quite a bit though. Instructional video again. Sweet. So what was the root? Blue coal hash. There you go. You guys are all answering any questions. If there's any questions, it's okay to message you. Yeah, any questions you guys have. All I do on that Facebook page, man, PM everybody back and forth forever. It usually takes a while though. Sometimes a long while. But I'll get there. You could keep it in the fridge and drink it cold. But you don't have to. You could keep it on the stove, keep it warm till it's done. It'll get it stronger and stronger and stronger, but it's fine. You could freeze it, cook it, and then freeze it if you wanted. That's like, I don't know about you, but my freezer is like super special real estate. I don't want to be taking up freezer space with tea. But yeah, I have a real small little freezer. Okay, cool. There we go. I got to the end of the questions. The ribosomes. Ron, you found the rhizomes. The ribosomes. Oh, hey, grade 9 bio. Whatever you call the seeds, looks like corn on the cob. Yeah, from Chinese food. My question is, when's the best time to spread the seeds? You could spread some now, or you could wait. Like I think Matt and Biravan, they grow seedlings all winter. Like Matt, he showed me a picture of his bathtub. It's all full of those garden flats, all the little cells, and there's tons of little weekend in there. And Biravan incorporates that into his programming too. When he goes and teaches, he takes those little seedlings and plants them. Real awesome to do. If you want to do it that way, I guess it could be a little tiresome to water them for months or whatever. Yeah, you could wait till the ice is gone and then put them all around in the mud, marshy places. Yeah, like where you got them, anywhere with his cattails. Yeah, I think I'll do a couple more of these. Let's see here. Yeah, how do you keep it warm? No, you don't want to simmer it after it's warm. Just leave it on the stove, like on minimum. So sometimes I have to alternate between minimum and off, and like yeah, kind of whatever. Did my grandma ever talk about Anishinaabe protocols? Yeah. I mean, I think I covered that in the YouTube video. Just when you're going to harvest, understanding those sustainability pieces, and understanding, your ability to say thank you, to which most of us will use tobacco as a means to say thank you. This is different everywhere, and our reach for even just our community work now, it's worse now that we're online. It's a little bit weird, but from community to community, sometimes there's a variety of different ways to say thank you out there and to be a part of that protocol. But yeah, some of my favorite things about harvesting that I don't think I talked about in that video that I really like is being in a really good mind frame. Spending time, like if you're having a bad day, like for the most part, if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to go pick a bunch of medicine. I really like to be in a good mindset. And I remember sometimes in the past, like we'd go into the bush and I'd have to wait real long because I didn't like all of the logging, all the forestry happening, and it'd make me real mad. And so I'd have to, find my joy before I would start picking. Because the whole process just didn't feel good. If you're all mad picking a bunch of medicine, it just doesn't work too well together. So as a part of protocol, I think that's one of my favorite things, is just being in a good mindset. Then the whole act of harvesting totally is going to be therapeutic, let alone the medicine itself. So protocol is really fun. I really like that, and I encourage everybody, ask around, like asking your grandmas and grandpas, and um, and learn what their protocols were. It's even different from family to family. You'll pick up these little things here and there from different aunties and uncles, grandmas and grandpas. They'll have this little special thing that they did when they went out and got medicine, and you take that, and yeah, it really helps with the whole process. But yeah, I really like that question. Um, but this premenopausal PCOS person and makes out later on. Oh, Sandra's freaking awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll jump off here now. Yeah, I agree. Good to go. Mshkiigwaatikonhs for coming to hang out. Keep you guys posted about the restream, and we'll see you guys soon. Bum on P or Tehran. Bum on peace.